Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy, champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Oh, I've got too many bills.
If you need funds, you can apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and have the money in your account as soon as the same business day.
Okay, got it. Applying now.
They've been helping hardworking people cover emergency expenses since 2004.
Hey, look, I got it.
You've got this.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See cashnetusa.com for more details.
A year later, after we froze our embryos, we found out that the tank, our embryos were stored in lost temperature control. And they didn't even call us. They sent an email on a Sunday morning. And at 7 a.m., I woke up and I'm like, what is this email? And I had to call my husband over and be like, can you read this? Like, what does it say? Right? And I started freaking out. And essentially, they told us, we can't tell you the viability until you plan to use the embryos. That was when I hit rock bottom.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, a free safe space for people to share and learn from others' experiences with mental health and addictions. I'm Todd Ranabama, a suicide attempt survivor and a recovering substance abuser. And welcome to another episode. This week I'm speaking with Amy Yip, and Amy is a mental fitness coach. And if you're anything like me, as soon as I hear a mental coach or a life coach, my guard goes up, and we discuss that. Well, we attack that issue straight away. But that's not the main reason why I'm talking with Amy. I'm talking with Amy because she has life experience with fertility issues and postpartum depression, OCD, anxiety, all that stuff. So we discuss that. And in the show notes, you'll find her website. She has a book, I believe, and a TED Talk. So all those links will be there. While you're checking out her links, you can also check out my links to my social medias and to my website, which has all types of stuff on there, including my book and buy me a coffees, whatnot, and so on. And here's something else you can do. You can do it while listening to this podcast. You don't even have to hit pause or stop. If you could rate and review the podcast on Apple or whatever app you're listening to, if it's possible to leave ratings and reviews, that would be amazing. You know what else is amazing is Amy Yip. So without further ado, I give you Amy.
How am I not like the people that just hang up a shingle and say I'm a coach?
Yeah.
A couple things. One, I'm certified. I have multiple certifications. I went to school. I've done the practice. It's almost like you do an internship. You're required to do, I don't even know what the hours are anymore. It's like 50 hours of coaching. And someone who has also gone through this process reviews your tapes, gives you feedback, tells you what you're doing right or what you're not doing right. You have to sign this agreement with the ICF that you understand, what is coaching, what is not, what's that border between coaching and therapy, and you will not cross that line. So, it's more, integrity, having the integrity, right? Having gone through the training, understanding what my lane is and what is crossing and what could do more harm than not if you're not properly trained in that. And also I understand what coaching is. Whereas if you talk to some people, they're like, oh, I give advice. And I'm like, great, that's not what a coach does. We don't give advice. You don't tell people what to do, right? That's what maybe a mentor does or, or what friends do. That's not what coaches do. So
what do you do as a coach?
Dang it. No. So coaching has been defined in so many different ways, right? And really the essence of coaching is to help a person change in the way they wish and help them to move in the direction that they want to go, even if that direction is not clear. And I liken all of us to be like onions. So deep down at our core, we have our values, we have the things that light us up, that get us, excited out of bed. And that's at your core. And then you have all the layers of that onion. And I call those the shoulds. And those are the shoulds of parents, teachers, managers, coaches, society at large, telling you what you should or shouldn't do, who you should or shouldn't be, what should or shouldn't be the right next step in your life. And when you have a lot of those layers, then you lose a sense of, well, who am I? What really matters to me? Right? And so coaching is helping you to peel back those layers of your onion to get back to what really matters to me, right? I know so many people who pursue promotions, go after jobs, buy a house because they should versus they truly want to. So it's really about peeling back those layers, helping you to understand what is it that I want, not should, right? What do I really want? And it is about empowering people to become the person that they want to be, right? It's about building awareness of choices because sometimes we feel like we don't have choice. And then once you're aware of the choices, then it's about empowering you to take some of the choices because sometimes we see all the choices and we're like, nope, don't like any of them. They're scary. They're, I don't want to do it. So then it becomes empowering you to take choice. It is not advice giving. And the reason I tell people it is not advice giving is, like, for example, if a lot of people say they want to get healthier.
Right.
If I were to ask you, what does it take to get healthy, Todd? Tell me, what does it take to get healthier?
Ooh. Well, for me, I break it down physically or mentally. And everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody is different. And there's like this general, you need 8 hours of sleep, right? 7-8 hours. You need to drink eight cups of water a day. You need to get movement. You need to eat well, right? There's certain things that all of us need to stay healthy. And yet so many of us struggle to get healthy. And so it's not lack of advice. It's not lack of knowledge. I could tell you, go run 10 miles, eat a salad, sleep 8 hours, but that's not going to change things.
You sound like my doctor now.
Just call me Dr. Yip. And so that's why coaching is not advice giving, because I could tell you all the advice, but that's not necessarily going to change things. As a coach, my job is to help you uncover what are the specific obstacles that are in your way. So it's that awareness. And then how do we navigate that obstacle rather than let me just tell you what to do.
Gotcha.
How's that for an answer?
I like it. It's so you really customize each strategy for each person and really kind of break down everybody's roadblocks and how to go past those roadblocks and become the person they want to be, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes people come and the thing they want to work on is not even the real thing that they want to work on, right? I had a client who came to me. Her thing was, I want to find the next thing in my career, right? I'm not sure what that is, so I'm trying to figure that out. And through our work together, we discovered she doesn't really want another job or another career path. What was driving her to do this was because the company she worked for, everything was changing. They restructured. She had a new team, a new boss, a new physical location. So all of that was changing. She does not like change when she's not in control of it. And so she was trying to get back that control or a sense of control by saying, well, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to find something else that makes me happy. And through our work, she actually realized, I love my job. I love the company. I just don't like this change. So how do I sit with that discomfort of change when I'm not in control of it? And that's what we started working on.
So you diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder and prescribed her some medication?
Yes, exactly.
Cool. We're kidding, everyone. We're kidding. Or I am, anyway. At least I am.
Yeah. You're going to be like, what are you doing?
No, I like that. I mean, I probably, maybe I could use a life coach more than a psychotherapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Well, actually, I I have seen an ADHD coach, and they use the word coach, and I was always comfortable with it because I don't know, the ADHD thing was more it negated the
coach.
the coach word, and it's very similar to what you're saying, because I mean, I don't feel like I fit in with society sometimes, and it's like even my sleeping patterns, it's like I like sleeping for 5 hours and then doing a bunch of work and then napping for 2 and then going back to work, and, and I don't want to have a career. I want to have a wonderful lifestyle that happens to make money, whether it's art or whatever, or podcasting or whatever, and I always felt, I don't know, like I always felt like I didn't fit in society in a way because of the pressures of belief systems. I had belief systems in me that were like, you have to go do this or should.
Yep.
The should layers, like an ogre.
Yep.
Layers. Yeah. And I mean, and some people, they're told they should get married, get a house, and then have children. And some people don't even want children.
Yep.
And some people really do. And some people can't have those children.
Yep.
Which is one of the major reasons why I wanted to talk to you was my wife and I had a bit of trouble at the start, or at least we thought we did, until we started talking to people that have real trouble having children. And it quickly dawned on us like how mentally taxing, and maybe explain your journey with that.
Yeah. So I'll start here. When I was working in corporate for 16 years. And when I was at Google, I always said I had this dream to go travel, to see the world, to volunteer, give back. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And obviously everyone has an opinion about what you should or shouldn't do. So everyone's like, why would you leave Google? Are you bananas? Everyone's trying to get in. And at the time, my husband was also an entrepreneur. So I had an internal should of, well, I should be the stability. Why am I proposing such an idea to, like, it could throw off his business? And then the biggest should of all was, at the time I was in my mid-30s. And if you're a woman in your mid-30s, everyone's got an opinion about your fertility. So I had people saying, you're getting old and you should really settle down. Your eggs are rotting. Like someone said, your eggs are rotting to me. If you want kids, you really need to be doing that. And at the time, we had this dream that we really wanted to pursue. And then we also wanted kids, but obviously, like, it's hard to do the travel bit, right, with the kids, at least the type of travel that we want to do. We love climbing mountains and stuff, right? So we had our embryos frozen, and we thought that's a great backup plan. We'll go do our travel bit, come back, settle down, start a family. And a year later, after we froze our embryos, we found out that the tank our embryos were stored in lost temperature control. And they didn't even call us. They sent an email on a Sunday morning. And at 7 a.m., I woke up and I'm like, what is this email? And I had to call my husband over and be like, can you read this? Like, what does it say? Right. And I started freaking out. And essentially, they told us, we can't tell you the viability until you plan to use the embryos. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning to use them. Like, what is this? We decided to do IVF again. And this time we only had one good embryo. And statistically, you need 3 good embryos to have a live birth. And so that was when I hit rock bottom of like, okay, so I feel like the universe is telling me I can only do one or the other. I can't do both. And I need to make a decision, because you can't have kids and return them. You can't be like, I'm going to try it out and then decide I don't want it, right? And so
that's why you get a dog.
Yeah. That's a good trial. But at the time, I really had to make that decision. And coming from a very traditional household where you don't air your dirty laundry, you don't tell people what's really happening. I decided, well, I'm just going to read books and try to figure out the answer because I can't tell anyone about my challenges, right? And plus, on the outside, everything looked great. I have a wonderful job, wonderful husband, right? Loving friends and family. What could I possibly be complaining about? So there is also a bit of that shame and that comparison, right? Why am I complaining? So I decided, well, I'm smart enough. I'll just read books and I'll figure it out. 8 months of reading every book out there. And I did not get the answer. Well, do I go pursue my dream or do I settle down and start a family? And then, have you ever heard of ayahuasca?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, for the listeners who don't know what ayahuasca is, it's a medicinal psychedelic plant. In Peru, they have a shaman. It's this concoction that you drink. And so my best friend told me, hey, there's this thing. It's called ayahuasca. And it's supposed to give you clarity. And I'm like, clarity? That's what I need. I need clarity. So I went down to Peru for a 5-day ayahuasca ceremony. And I will tell you, it gave me a lot of clarity on life, on a lot of things. Like I wouldn't be here telling you all of this if this were from like back then, because I had an armor on. I did not let people in. And so I really learned a lot about the power of vulnerability, the power of sharing, the power of asking people for help. But I did not come back with clarity on, do I start a family or do I go pursue my dream? And
the ayahuasca knew what the priority was.
Exactly. They always say ayahuasca gives you what you need, not what you want, right? Gives you what you need, not what you want. And so when I returned back to the US, a coworker told me about coaching. And I was kind of like you. I heard the word coach. I didn't know what it was, but when he explained it to me, I kind of cringed. I'm like, how does somebody who doesn't know me help me? Like, this does not make logical sense. And I've got to pay them money to do this. This is just right. But I was pretty desperate. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And my coach was the best decision that I ever made because she helped me to realize 2 things. One, I'm not in control of very much. Even if I stay, I am not guaranteed kids, right? It's so many couples are going through infertility issues, right? And challenges. And so just because I stay, I'm not in control of that. But what I am in control of is if I go pursue my dream, I can choose that. And so I made the decision, I'm going to leave Google. I'm going to go pursue my dream. And the other thing that I decided was I want to help other people the way my coach helped me, right? It sucked feeling stuck, and her helping me to peel back those layers of the onion was one of the greatest gifts. And so I went back, I got my coaching certification. And in January of 2020 was when I sold all my belongings. I left my job at Google. My husband and I, we were living in New York at the time. And we took off. We took a one-way flight to Ghana to volunteer at a breast cancer nonprofit. And remember what happened in 2020?
Well, I don't know about Ghana, but in my hometown, we had a pandemic.
Oh, that we didn't have that in Ghana. I'm just kidding. No. Yeah. So borders in Ghana closed, and what was supposed to be like 4 months of volunteer, 3-4 months of volunteer work turned into 7 months because you couldn't exit, you couldn't enter. But it was one of the greatest gifts because that was when I started vocalizing more, speaking up more about just things that are hard. My personal journey of fertility, all of the things, and people resonated with it, and the rest is history. And I do want to add, because a lot of people do ask me, so whatever happened to the embryos? I ended up getting pregnant at age 40 overseas. My husband and I, we were turning 40, and we're like, well, everyone says it's going to take a long time at age 40. So we better start trying now. It'll probably be a year. We'll have a year to travel during that time. And then we got to go home and see about those embryos. And 2 months in, we got pregnant. So we're like, well, just kidding. We don't have that much travel time to head home. So I had the first one. And then we did in 2020, what year? 2023, I went through all of the embryos that were in the tank, and it was one after the next, and it was like fail. And that was just...
Those are the original ones that...
Yeah. Well, also the single one, the second IVF, the single one that was good. We went through all of them. It was just a fail. All were failures. I mean, there were also scares when they were telling me something about my uterus was like funny because of I had an emergency C-section with the first, and they're like, I think they were like they must have cut it wrong, or and so there was this scare there, and they were telling me I might not ever be able to get pregnant and again, and I was like, what? So there was a whole year of just like the big emotions, plus you're injecting yourself with all these hormones, right? You're feeling bloated and your stomach looks like it's been attacked by a hive of bees. And so that was really rough. All of them were failures. And, in November of 23, that was the last one. It failed. We got the news and I told my husband, I cannot do any more of these injections. It's mentally, emotionally, physically just too much. I need a break. We're entering the holidays. Let's just enjoy the holidays. And so we agreed, the next year we would talk about it, but just enjoy the holidays. And then I got pregnant over the holidays with my 7-month-old now. He's 7 months. And I didn't my period skipped and I was like, oh, must have been all those shots and my body just like shutting down from all of that. And my husband's like, maybe you're pregnant. I'm like, not possible. And yeah.
So how much money did you spend on useless embryos?
I don't know.
Did they give you a discount for screwing up the temperature?
Yeah, they gave they gave us the second one for free. They covered it.
Okay.
But I was also a little older and, yeah.
Wow. So both your kids were just natural, good old fashioned.
They were. and something that I say often is sometimes we put all this stress on like trying to control situations that are not in control, and the emotional and mental and physical tolls, these are just things that really we cannot control, even if we try to.
So was freezing your embryos and going all through that, do you think that those were shoulds?
Yes, it was a should, especially, I mean, I don't know. At the time, I saw it as an insurance policy, as a backup plan, because I know statistically when you hit a certain age, your likelihood of being able to get pregnant drops. The doctor showed me this chart when I went in, right? And it was like, here you are, and you're going to be here by next year. You're going to just plummet. And it made me really afraid. And
does he get kickbacks from the fertility clinic?
He was the doctor at the fertility clinic.
Oh.
So... and I mean, yes,
capitalism.
They're helping you through. and I mean, granted, I understand the risks and I understand, but I also do feel like they use a lot of scare tactics. I mean, even when I was giving birth to my second one, because the first one, it was an emergency C-section. My son's heart rate was dropping. I had pushed for a long time, and it was just wasn't happening. And with the second one, I was determined to have a VBAC, which is vaginal birth after cesarean. And I was determined not to have an epidural because the epidural was what made it really hard with the first one. I couldn't feel anything and I couldn't push. And so with the second one, I was like, I'm determined to go in. I'm determined to do this. Naturally, no epidural. And the doctor kept trying to scare me. She was like, if you don't get an epidural now and his heart rate drops like your first, then we're going to have to put you under. You won't be able to see him right when he comes out. Like, she just use all these scare tactics, right? And in those moments when you're in labor, you're not totally thinking straight. So, there were moments when I was like, oh, maybe I should say yes to her. But yeah.
Do they get more money if you get an epidural?
Yes. So the epidural, because the person doing that the epidural costs money. Plus,
I live in Canada. It's free.
Oh yeah, no. So, well, over here, like everything is based on the efficiency and effectiveness. If you have a C-section, especially a scheduled C-section, it is so much more effective and efficient for them.
Right.
because it's on a time schedule. They know exactly. And, some people can labor for 24 hours, 30 hours. It's just an unknown, and you're holding up a room. Right. And so a lot of doctors try to push it on you, like, oh, but you've got to do the C-section. Let's do a scheduled, whatever it is, and
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, no, here it's take as long as you need. And if you want an epidural, here it is. No bill when you leave the hospital. And you get a year off of work. So, but,
I mean, here we are very backwards here. Some people, some people get nothing.
right.
Some people get 2 weeks, and I'm like, how do you especially, yeah, you just ejected a human being out of your body, and
Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
you get 2 weeks. Like, yeah.
Good Lord. Well, that's a whole new twist that I don't know if I knew, was that the whole scare thing and the whole, yeah, it really is capitalism. And then you didn't need any of the embryos anyway. And like, I don't, okay, oh man, I don't want to get in trouble, but that whole Luigi guy shooting the CEO of the health insurance thing, it's, as a Canadian,
Yep.
We don't have a perfect healthcare system, but at least it's free. We don't get scared into making decisions. Yeah, the whole healthcare system down there, it's like that alone is a mental health issue. Just getting sick.
It is. It's completely, and
just having a baby.
Yeah. And a lot of things aren't covered. The out-of-pocket costs, I don't know how long women have in the hospital over there after giving birth, but over here, depending on your plan, you have anywhere between 2 to 3 days in the hospital. And then if you have a C-section, I think it goes up to like 3 to 4 days.
When my wife had our kids, I think it was maybe a couple nights, but everything was healthy and fine.
Yeah.
She left, but if she could stay, if she had complications, she can stay as long as she needed, I guess.
Well, I had found out that the day before I went in labor, the hospital they were out of beds, and people were like at the hospital giving labor. They couldn't be admitted. They didn't have a room, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness my baby decided to go today. Right. That would have been a whole nother thing.
Yeah, well, we do have that issue sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Availability, but as someone that's gone through this now, I know you don't like giving advice. I mean, that's not your coaching style, but as just a human who's gone through what you've gone through, do you, maybe not advice, do you give suggestions, or do you let people know maybe some of the, I don't know, things to avoid or things not to avoid?
I mean, a couple of things in general, at least from my own experience, was letting go of control helped, because trying to control things actually caused more stress on us, right? Like doing the whole timing, and my husband joked, because there was a period when we were trying and we couldn't get pregnant, and then we went the fertility route, and so he was like, this is feeling more like a job. Like, all right, let's go. And that causes more stress for both, right? And so one of the best advice someone had given me was stop timing everything, stop being so because the stress, your body actually knows when you're stressed, and it will not want to get pregnant if you're stressed, right? And I think the other thing that helped me tremendously is one, recognizing that I'm not alone. And that's why, I proactively talk about this and my challenges and the mental, emotional, physical toll on myself, because people don't talk about it. they don't realize how common infertility, miscarriage is. And it is not always just a woman's issue. That's the other thing. People assume, oh, if it's infertility, it must be the woman, but sometimes it's a man's issue, right? And it's not your fault. And people blame themselves. And I remember one time I wrote a story on LinkedIn about my own personal experience after like the last failed embryo, where I was just like, so done. Right. And I had like 3 or 4 women reach out to me and privately message me and tell me, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for sharing your story, because I thought I was the only one going through it. And I thought nobody would understand.
I know quite a few women, I guess, that have, once they started to have not started to have a baby, but once they had a child or two, then they kind of opened up about how many miscarriages they had or stillborns and things. And it's like, why? I mean, it's more common than you think, because no one talks about it.
Exactly.
If it's so common, why can't we talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because then when it does happen to someone, then they don't feel so like there's something wrong with them or guilt. Did you feel like you were letting your husband down?
Yes. I totally forgot about that. Yes. The big reason that, after I found out the second IVF, we only had 1 embryo. I don't even know how to describe it. Like my insides just felt real icky, and I felt like such a failure in life, because I was also, I mentioned I was raised in a very traditional household, right? Like a woman's job is to have babies, so that the family name can be continued. And my husband has always wanted kids. He adores kids. He's always said, he's always wanted to be a father. And so there was this
Was he from a traditional family too that way?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
His parents are super, super, very different than my family. And, but he's always wanted to be a dad. And I knew that. And so I had this sense of, oh my gosh, I've let him down. And like, would he still love me if I can't give him children? And what? And so I had all these stupid thoughts. Right. Now looking back, I'm like, you're so silly.
Shoulds.
Those are exactly shoulds, all those shoulds. And one day I had the courage to go to him, and he saw me crying, and he asked me what was going on. And so I told him, I was like, I'm afraid that you won't love me, because like, I feel like I'm failing us in being able to have kids, and, look at all this stuff that's happening. And he looked at me lovingly and said, do you really think I wouldn't love you because of what's happening with the tanks and our embryos? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you are so silly. He's like, I will love you no matter what. Right. And he's like, and just because we can't have our own kids, which isn't even off the table yet, right? Like it's the embryos, but just because of what is happening, even if we can't have our own kids, we have other options to become parents. And they might not be ours, but there are so many kids out there that need to be adopted, that need loving families and loving parents, right? We have options to become parents, even if it's not our number one choice, right? And so that was this, oh my gosh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. So.
And 10 minutes later, you conceived.
Yes. How'd you know? Were you there? No.
2 minutes later, actually. Oh, well, congratulations. I'm glad it all worked out for you.
Yeah.
I know a lot of women then also go through postpartum. I almost said postmortem. That's very different. Postpartum issues and depression, and something I've just learned not too long ago is postpartum OCD. Did you struggle with any of that?
So with the first, it was all of the things. It was, with the first, I had my first panic attack. Because as I mentioned, my husband was an entrepreneur. His entrepreneurship at the time, wasn't going wonderfully.
I hear him.
Yeah. I was also an entrepreneur. So, we needed stability. We needed income. If I go on maternity leave, I'm not bringing in income. And so we really needed for him to go get a job, but he was dealing with his own internal stuff, where he felt like he wasn't good enough to, land a successful job. And so there was that happening. So we didn't have this stable income coming in, plus insurance is fun filled and that stress and anxiety. Plus we were moving back from overseas and we had nothing. We didn't have a car. We didn't have a home. We didn't know where we were living, plus we had to buy all the baby things, figure out how do we take care of this little human being. So it just felt like this massive pressure. And I had, I think, 3 panic attacks and I didn't even know what they were because I completely blacked out. And then I told my friend about it. I was like, oh yeah, I had this experience where I blacked out. I couldn't breathe. And she's like, you had a panic attack. And I'm like, I don't have panic attacks. And she's like, well, you just did. And so with the first one, there was all that stress. And then I went into labor and it was just the hardest thing. I guess, typically when you go in labor, you dilate 1 centimeter every hour. I dilated from 5 to 10 in 1 hour.
Yeesh.
And so it was this fast, because they were like, oh yeah, it's a minute of like intensity and then you'll get some rest. And in mine was just like this rolling constant thing. And which is why I tapped out and I'm like, give me the dang epidural. And that labor experience was scary. They gave me the epidural and then I couldn't feel my body and then I couldn't push and then his heart rate dropped and it felt like it was just an instant that it happened, but it was actually 7 or 8 hours, right? So it felt like it was just this instant. And they're like, his heart rate's dropping. And so that gave me panic as I'm trying to get him out. And then the next thing you know, they plopped a baby on me. They cut me open, plopped a baby on me. And I was still in this shock of what just happened. And there's this little crying human being on me. Is this really mine? How do I know? Right. And a lot of people give this perception that you're supposed to fall in love with your baby right away. And I did not. I looked at this human being and I'm like, what the? And it was such a traumatic birth that I was still processing what was happening. And then that gave me some guilt of, well, I should love this little thing. I don't. Am I a horrible person for feeling this way? And then after...
Plus all the trouble I've gone through to have it, and now it's...
Yeah.
You know what?
What is going on here? And then when I got home, I experienced all the things that you mentioned. I had postpartum depression. I also had anxiety. I started getting these intrusive thoughts and became so afraid of death. And not my own, but everybody else's around me. So I would lay down, close my eyes, and just the thoughts of what if my son died? What if my husband died? What if? And I would literally reach over to make sure my husband is still breathing, or go to the crib and check to make sure my son is still there and breathing. And it was just it caused me to not be able to sleep at night. Because I'm constantly, it was so hard to sleep. And you probably know this, when you're not sleeping, it just makes things worse. And it became this cycle, and it got better over time. I saw a therapist and she helped me tremendously, but it probably lasted almost a year, and it got better over time. But at the start, it was just really hard.
I know when I have anxious moments and depression and things, when I'm in the middle of it, it does feel like it's never going to end. This is just my life now. And now I don't know if I can live like this,
oh yeah,
for another day, let alone another few decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really scary. So I'm glad that you were able to get through that part. Correct me if I'm wrong. That OCD thinking of, someone's going to harm my child, or, thinking of that death. And then there's the other side where it's some parents have weird homicidal-y kind of thoughts. Are they both OCD? It's just
I have no,
opposite spectrums of the.
yeah, I don't know. I think also,
I think intrusive thoughts are
yeah,
intrusive thoughts, I guess, whatever they are.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what my therapist called them. So she's like, "Oh, you're having intrusive thoughts," and I'm like, "I'm having a what?" And it was interesting because the thing that she told me to do was really think about. She's like, "Well, what do you think happens to people when they die?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And so she basically wanted me to believe in something, like figure out what I believe in, what happens after death, because part of the fear and the intrusive thoughts and the anxiety is caused by this not knowing. But if you could believe in something, then you have that faith, right?
So in a weird way, you found spirituality.
Yeah. And I actually started doing meditations on death
At that time.
Yeah. And
I know there was that kind of meditation.
yeah, it's a meditation on death, and I forgot the word, but it's basically letting go of attachment and learning to let go, because
kind of Buddhist-ish.
yeah, it is. It's Buddhist, and it's essentially like, how do I let go of this attachment, right? And it every time I do the meditation, I just bawl my eyes out, because you're meditating on this notion of losing everything and everyone in your life, and it's coming to a realization.
Sounds terrible.
I know, but it also gives you peace, because the truth is it will happen to all of us, right? The only thing that is going to happen is we're all born, and then we will all die. That's the constant.
And we pay taxes.
And we pay taxes. I mean, some people don't. They might scam the system, so that's not always the truth.
I suppose you're right.
So that meditation, every time I do it, I bawl my eyes out, and my husband will sometimes like see me doing it. He's like, "Oh, she's doing the death meditation again."
Hey, have you heard about the Buddhist vacuum?
Mm-mm.
So there's this new vacuum out. It's a Buddhist vacuum, but it comes with no attachments.
Oh!
Sorry.
I thought you were going to tell me about a real vacuum. I was like, oh.
No, I don't think there's any religious vacuums out there. But I don't know. There could be. Could be. But even, I mean, as a father, I was very the same way when, like, it took me a while to, like, once we brought especially our first kid home, and I'm just like, there's this insanely demanding blob of flesh that is stressing me the F out. And I did not love him at first.
Yeah.
And I felt all the guilt and all the stuff too. And again, that's something a lot of people don't talk about. And I asked other fathers, I'm like, did you love your kid right away? Thought, oh, of course I did. And I don't know if they were just, that's what they had to say, or if they actually felt that way.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know this thing is like making my life hell right now. Like, I don't like what the, and I was undiagnosed ADHD at that point too. And I'm like, of course, eventually it wasn't like I despised it. Despised him. There was moments in the day where I was just like looking at him and just, I was, full of wonder and love. And then other times where I'm like, what have I done? Yeah. Yeah.
My husband, when our firstborn arrived into the world, he told me, oh my gosh, the moment that I saw him and I heard his cry, I was so in love. And so that made me feel worse, because I'm like, okay, well, Dad loves this, right? What is wrong with me? I'm supposed to love him. So, but I did. I fell so in love with him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the second one, because the birth experience was so very different, I think the biggest change for me was I went in with letting go of control, letting go of expectations, right? I was like, I know what could happen. I went in to the first expecting a certain thing, and it went off the walls different than what I expected. And that probably was also what caused it to be so hard and traumatic and emotional for me, right? Versus this time, I'm like, I'm going to let go of control. There's the hope it will go a certain way. And if it doesn't, then, I'm okay with it.
Right.
Right.
Expect the unexpected.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm guessing you're familiar with the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my go-tos because, well, I've gone through AA years ago, and yeah, it's a good one that, for anyone that doesn't know, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard that, I was like, whoa, that is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forget sometimes I have to remind myself, oh, right, I'm trying to push the river upstream, and it's really hard to try and push a river upstream.
Oh, yeah.
Or I can just go with the flow and have faith that things will work out.
Yeah. Things really do happen for a reason. At least I think so. And, like with the letting go of the control piece, an exercise that I have my own clients do that I do myself too is in those moments, draw a circle, everything inside of that circle, what is in your control, everything that's not in your control, right outside of the circle. Now focus on what you want to do with the stuff inside the circle. Right. And what we realize is there's not that much that's in the circle. And so let go of like all that other stuff. And
Sounds easy.
I know. But when you look at it, you realize like there's really not that much in my control, and like let me, and then the piece with things happening for a reason. I always say that there's always a gift and opportunity in every situation or circumstance. It might not be obvious in the moment, but there is, and oftentimes it's later when we look back, then we can see, oh, that happened so that this other thing could happen. Right. One of the exercises I also have people do is to draw a lifeline where you look at the highs and lows of your life. And oftentimes when you look backwards, you notice that every high was made possible because of a low. It wouldn't have happened unless that thing happened. Like I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing today had it not been for all those embryos. I would probably still be in corporate America hating life. Right. But I love the things that I do today. I have so much freedom. But
hating life, that would have been a low too.
Yes, it would have been this constant low. No.
Yeah, it's not an acute low; it's more of a chronic low.
Yeah. And so the point is, there's always a gift or opportunity, even if it's not obvious.
Have you ever met anyone that's just consistent, no highs or lows?
No. And one of the first exercises I have all my clients do is a lifeline, and we talk through it, right? And you start seeing the patterns, and so it's recognizing, even if I am in a low point, can I have faith that this is for a reason, even if I don't know what it is, right? And faith and fear are the same thing. It's believing in an outcome that has not happened yet. But faith is believing that something good will come. Fear is believing that something bad will come.
Couldn't you have faith that something bad will come? I don't know. Sorry.
Maybe.
Technically, maybe. But yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I would be doing what I'm doing either if it wasn't for your embryos. No, because of my own lows. I mean, not because of your lows. And, I really love what I'm doing.
Yeah. You should also do comedy.
I think so. It's a completely different thing being a smart ass during a conversation than it is writing jokes and performing them. Yeah. So what you don't have to, but what are your kids' names?
Logan and Julian.
Julian.
Yep.
Is that the older one?
The younger one. Logan's the older.
Anytime I hear Julian, I think of Madagascar. King Julian.
Well, I should let him know that. Well, Julian's name was actually Jackson.
That's my son's name.
Oh, well, his name was Jackson for maybe 48 hours. We could not agree on a name. And so we had a list and we're like, let's just pick Jackson. So we picked Jackson, and in the hospital, they have a videographer, photographer that takes pictures, and they put like these letters that said Jackson. And so we have a video that says baby Jackson. Our toddler, he came to the hospital and we're like, meet baby Jackson. And after the first 24, 36 hours of being at home, we're like, yeah, he just doesn't look like a Jackson, doesn't feel like a Jackson. Neither my husband or I could like utter the words Jackson to him. And we both love that name, right? So we're like, well, but he's just not a Jackson. And so we looked at each other, we're like, let's call him Julian. So my husband had to like rush to the hospital. Thank goodness it was a weekend. He's like, have you submitted the paperwork for his birth certificate? They're like, no, not yet. And they're like, give me back the paper. I'm going to change his name.
Some whiteout.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we were just going to name our kid Jack. And then my dad said, why not Jackson? Because that's a family last name. My great-grandmother's last name. I was like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of Jackson as a first name. We lived in a little town, and there was like everybody, their dogs started naming their kid Jackson around the same time we did. So then I was all pissed off. I was like, should have just named him Jack. I mean, we just call him Jack, but some people call him Jackson. But. Thank you so much, Amy. Amy and I actually did 2 interviews. The first one, for whatever reason, we had technical issues, and I didn't know it until we were done the interview. So this was my second time talking with Amy for an extended period of time, and she's lovely. In a way, I'm glad the first one didn't work out. So thank you so much, Amy. Again, make sure to check the show notes for all her links. And you know what? I'm out of here. So until next time, please remember to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.